Mannimarco stood at the heart of the House of the Worms. The air reeked of decay, whispers coiling like serpents. His texts speak of a throne no god should occupy, a rebellion etched in bone and shadow. The Godhead's name is cursed here, replaced by a title, CHIM. What if the walls themselves are a cage? His texts speak of a throne no god should occupy, a rebellion etched in bone and shadow. The answer lies buried in the rot. What is CHIM? The towers do not merely stabilize reality, they suppress a wound in the Orbis, a rebellion clawing to replace the Godhead. Mannimarco's kingdom is no cultist fantasy. It is the carcass of a god who sought to unseat the divine order and was devoured by his own hubris. His rot festers beneath the surface, a negation of creation. If the towers weaken, his poison seeps into the weave of Mundus. What holds the Orbis together is not divine will, but a silent war against something that hates the very concept of heaven. The hero's struggle is not to defeat a prince, it is to prevent the unmaking of a godless world. Mannimarco's name is etched in ash. A Psijic novice who unearthed the walking way of necromancy, he sought transcendence through death's dominion. During the warp in the west, he channeled the necromancer's moon, attempting to crown himself as a god. The texts of ESO chronicle his fall, not a prince, but a would-be deity shattered by his own ambition. His kingdom of worms is no cult, it is a fractured realm, a monument to defiance. The house rebels against the Godhead's order, its rituals a scream against divine hierarchy. Mannimarco's hatred is not of gods, but of their right to exist. He failed to usurp the Godhead, yet his prison holds a king who never was. The hero's struggle is not to defeat a prince, it is to silence the echo of a god who died screaming. The warp in the west was no accident, a spark from Numidium's reawakening, a blade unsheathed in the void. The dragon break that followed did not shatter 4 kingdoms, it shattered 44. 44 crowns dissolved into 4 into 1. Mannimarco's kingdom of worms rose from the ash, a monument to hubris. But what is a kingdom built on broken gods? A mausoleum, a feedback loop. The Orbis, that dying son of mortal myth, clung to life not through history, but through the rot it could not digest. Dragon breaks are real, they are the Godhead's cough, expelling what it cannot swallow. Mannimarco did not replace the divine. He imitated it, and in that imitation he became a mirror cracked, screaming, alive. His serpents are not cultists. They are the residue of a failed equation. A god who subtracted himself from the equation, only to find the void refused to fill. The 4 outcomes. A kingdom of decay, a throne of borrowed time, a people cursed to remember what should never be forgotten, and a god who hates the Godhead not for its power, but for its persistence. The House of the Worms does not worship decay, it is decay, a rebellion in the form of a wound. A god who died before he was born, trapped in the moment between the dragon's roar and the silence that follows. What does it mean to be a king who cannot die? To rule a realm that is both cause and effect? The answer lies in the warp in the west, in the numinous scar where Mannimarco's name was never meant to be spoken. The scar where Mannimarco's name was strangled by the Godhead's silence holds a truth older than the warp. CHIM, the divine technology buried in the 36 lessons footnote, demands a paradox. The self must be both a god and a shadow. To wield it, one must dissolve the ego into the Orbis while clinging to its supremacy. A balance. A breath between annihilation and apotheosis. The Pocket Guide's cold equations hint at this. Failure to harmonize the duality does not kill, it unmakes. Mannimarco's obsidian mask, etched with Dwemer glyphs, was not a tool, it was a confession. He sought to become the Godhead's equal, to carve a throne from the void's marrow. But his will was a hammer, not a scalpel. The ego he tried to shatter remained jagged, a splinter in the divine fabric. His followers, the House of the Worms, did not worship him. They buried him layer by layer in rituals that mirrored Dwemer sanctums, not out of devotion, out of necessity. A failed CHIM ascendant does not rule, it festers. Compare this to the Dwemer, their disappearance was no extinction. The ESO loading screen texts whisper of their transcendency, a people who mastered the paradox. They exist perhaps in all states at once, builders and ruins, whispers in the abyss, ghosts in the machinery of the world. Mannimarco's failure mirrors theirs, but inverted. He sought dominion, they sought dissolution. His erasure is a shadow of their escape. What if the king of worms is not a prince, but a prisoner? His hatred of the Godhead is not hubris. It is the scream of a being unmade, yet aware. The house of the worms is no cult. It is a rebellion, 1,000 tombs built to cage a god who cannot die. Their chants, their obsidian altars, their scent of ozone and rot, these are not rituals, they are restraints. The Abyss survives. The Dwemer survive. Mannimarco's name is a scar, but his presence is a question. What flickers in the warp's dark, whispering of a throne that was never sat upon? A god who failed to become a god, a king who never ruled, only waited. Red Mountain did not weep, it roared. The red year's breath scoured Morrowind, a volcano's wrath mirroring a god's. Ash fell like judgment, the earth itself rebelled. What rises when the divine order cracks? Not a kingdom, a wound. Mannimarco's serpents did not coil in silence. They struck as the red year's rivers boiled. Argonian spears met ash-choked skies. A people's exodus, a god's tantrum made weather. The mythic dawn sought to unmake Uriel Romans 7, to rip the divine veil thread by thread. Dagon's legions poured through that rent. Yet here, in the dust of a dead mountain, another god's failure smolders. The Oblivion crisis was not unique, it was an echo. A god's hand, clumsy and mortal, clawing at the Godhead's throne. Mannimarco's kingdom is no realm of worms. It is a cage of ambition, its bars forged in the same fire that shattered Red Mountain. He did not summon Oblivion, he mimicked it, a king who could not rule, only rehearse. The Godhead does not tolerate rivals, not Daedra, not mortals, not even would-be gods. Their power is not a prize to be stolen, it is a birthright. Mannimarco's rebellion was not against death. It was against the very idea that divinity must be inherited, not seized. His serpents are not cultists, they are witnesses. To a god who failed, who burned a continent to whisper, *I am here*. What becomes of a god who is not a god? They wait. In the shadow of a volcano. In the silence after a scream, in the spaces between prayers never answered, the house of the worms does not worship. It remembers a king's name etched in ash, a throne empty but for the weight of what it refused to become. Is this not the true horror, not the fall, the pause, the breath held between almost and never asterisk? The Godhead is a chorus, not a crown. Orbis hums with its shared breath. Yet Mannimarco's wrath screams a solo hymn. How can a king of worms who gnaws at unity hate a collective, unless the Godhead's dream is a lie? Unless the Abyss is not a chorus but a cage, his rebellion house of wormscrints no freedom, only a mirror. A god who failed to ascend now poisons the well of many. The moth priest whispers of his failure. But what if the Godhead is no collective? What if it devours all singularities, leaving only the void that calls itself many? Mannimarco's hatred is not misplaced. It is inevitable. A soul that craves to burn in its own light cannot abide the dark that binds stars. The Godhead is not a chorus, it is the silence between notes, and he who could not sing howls. Mannimarco's kingdom is no cult, it is a scar where a god tried to unmake the Godhead's design. His texts, etched in the house of the worms, do not worship the rail. They speak of a coop smothered in ash, a rebellion that mirrored the red year's unraveling. The towers still stand, their light a counterweight to his rot. Without them, the Abyss dream would drown in his hunger. He sought to replace the Godhead's silence with his own songa dirge of decay. But the towers, ancient and unyielding, bound his chaos. Their fall once ended Mundus' dream. Their presence now ensures his rebellion remains incomplete. The Dunmurray lore does not hide this truth. Mannimarco's kingdom is a cage of his own making. A failed god, not a prince, howls within it. The red year's scars echo his failure. Both shattered the Abyss order, yet the towers rebuilt what he could not unmake. His hatred for the Godhead is not devotion but defiance. He could not abide a creator who left silence in the stars. So he became a parasite, feeding on the wound his coop left blighting. The house of the worms thrives on this wound. Its rituals are not prayers but pleas for the towers to crumble, for the Godhead's silence to be replaced by his void. Yet the Oribus endures, the dream persists. Mannimarco's howl fades, a requiem for a rebellion that could not eclipse the dawn. The kingdom of worms is no triumph, it is the aftermath of a god who lost. And the towers, ever watchful, ensure he loses forever. If the towers guard not a monster but a mirror, what do their walls reflect? Oribus' foundation trembles not from Mannimarco's rot, but the Godhead's flaw. He sought to overwrite the dream, to become the dreamer. The towers locked his failure away, yet his rebellion whispers through every stone. Are the towers guardians or jailers? Do they preserve balance or suppress a truth the Godhead fears? Heroes walk this line, lucid in the dream, unaware their choices are strokes in a script they rewrite. Each elder scroll they read bends their fate, reshaping the Oribus fabric. But if Mannimarco's heresy proves divine intervention breeds chaos, then every hero's triumph is a thread in a tapestry unraveling. Did the towers rise to contain him or to contain the Godhead's instability? What if the Oribus is not a realm but a wound? A scar where the Godhead's dream bleeds into the void, and every scroll, every tower, every kingdom of worms is a stitch. Mannimarco's hatred for the Godhead is not madness, it is memory. A god who failed to replace the dreamer now remembers why he failed. The Oribus is no stable world. It is a question asked in every heartbeat, who dreams and who is dreamed. And if you think this unsettles you, wait until next week. What if the towers are not stone, but the Godhead's dreaming bones? The worms burrow deeper sin of decay where light once held. When a god fails, even its prisons become tombs. The fall is written in every writhing root. The dream ends, the dream must end. The house of the worms does not worship a god. It nurses one Mannimarco, whose obsidian throne hums with the static of a voice the divines once silenced. His texts, the wormwood codices speak of a hollow crown not as metaphor but as wound, a god's skull picked clean by rebellion. The air in his citadel reeks of myrrh and rot, as if the walls themselves mourn the Oribus's original sin. Could the houses of the hollow with their serpentine rites and hymns to non-existence, be more than cult? What if they are the scab on a wound that will not close? The Godhead's enemies do not die,